That escalated quickly.
A second Illumination Mario movie has been known to be a thing for well over a year now, with a slated 2026 release. However, given the relatively vague ending of the first movie where a Yoshi egg was hatching in the sewers, many people, myself included, assumed the next logical step for a sequel would be to focus on similar events to Super Mario World, with Yoshi having a much more involved role instead of just a group of them in the background during a traveling montage. But the most recent Nintendo Direct officially confirmed the next Mario movie would be a Super Mario Galaxy themed adventure. And although this teaser was unbelievably brief, only showing a speed shot across Peach's castle into space with the logo reveal, a lot of people began to speculate on Rosalina's involvement in this film and who will be voicing her. While there hasn't been any confirmation of her character, being in the movie yet, I think it's a pretty safe assumption to say she'll appear in a movie inspired by the Mario Galaxy games. Rosalina not being there would be like if Professor Egad had no appearance in future Luigi's Mansion titles or film. It just wouldn't make any sense. I've seen a decent bit of discussion online about how this movie will handle her voice, with one side hoping or full-on convinced Rosalina will be voiced by one of her game's voice actresses over the years, like Mercedes Rose, Carrie Kane, or Laura Faye Smith, while others are more in the camp of Illumination hiring a bigger A-list or B-list celebrity actress to voice her. As the main cast of the first movie was already filled with similar cast types, with Chris Pratt as Mario or Jack Black as Bowser. With some of the fan Rosalina casting I've seen so far for bigger celebrities have been ones like Scarlett Johansson and Anne Hathaway. Even saw some Aquafinas thrown in there too, but I know these guys are just fucking around, I think. With the two former actresses already having some prior voice acting experience, like Anne Hathaway voicing Red in the critically acclaimed Hoodwinked, or ScarJo voicing Ash from the Sing movies and Mindy from the SpongeBob movie. Kinda wish they made her a series regular, but it is what it is. So I wanted to take this video to go over some of the different takes / speculations for voices I've been seeing online and go over my own personal thoughts on how Rosalina's voice will be handled. The whole idea of people wanting OG voice actors from video game series reprising their roles in Hollywood film adaptations has been around for a bit now. Like, even when the early information about the first Mario movie was coming out, it felt like a mixture of people being legitimately upset with the casting and people thinking it was so dumb that it was also funny. Discourse like this existed with the Sonic movies too. While Ben Schwartz has proved himself to be a great voice for Sonic over the course of the first 3 films and clearly had a passion for the series growing up, there were still groups of people who thought it was total BS that Roger Craig Smith or Jaleel White wasn't going to voice him. Even now, the discourse around Chris Pratt still being Mario is relatively common, with many thinking his voice doesn't fit the character and his passion for the Mario series prior to casting wasn't really there.
Man, I spent hours of my life stomping Koopas.
Even though I personally think Pratt did, fine in the first film, I'm not gonna try to invalidate those who didn't like his performance. However, I also think getting mad at people who believe Rosalina's voice will be another well-known celebrity is insane. A lot of these takes of the older VAs reprising their roles are given more fuel when those same VAs are given roles in these movies, just smaller ones or actually reprising the role altogether, like Colleen O'Shaughnessy voicing Tails in the second and third Sonic movies, while she had been voicing him since 2014 in the games. Even the first Mario movie giving Charles Martinet 2 different roles as the Mario Bros. Dad and the walking reference character Giuseppe. So to a degree, I can understand why people don't think it's impossible to use Laura, Carrie, or Mercedes as Rosalina when situations like that existed in other recent video game films. With Charles' case at least, I imagine giving him these 2 roles was out of courtesy since he had been the man behind both bros since the mid-90s. It would serve as another way for Illumination to show they are at least putting some effort into honoring the previous source material with decisions like this, and the plethora of other references to previous games throughout the movie. Plus, with how minimal the roles were, they would still be saving some money. Because let's face it, hiring another big-name celebrity to voice Mario and Luigi's dad would have been pretty stupid. We also need to take into consideration how Universal Studios wants to market these movies to the broadest audience possible so they can make as much sweet cheddar as possible. Using voice actors like Chris Pratt, Jack Black, and Anya Taylor-Joy was not a bad idea from a business perspective, as all of these actors were and still are huge names in Hollywood. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out less than a month after the Mario movie, so Chris Pratt's name was everywhere in 2013. Whereas Charles wasn't really used in a lot of the movie's marketing, and not even on the main poster. Because the reality is, he's not as well known by the masses as the names previously listed. I imagine there will be a similar case if Kevin Afghani makes some kind of cameo in the Galaxy movie. Small role, but won't be used in any major marketing or appear on press tours. I love both of these guys as Mario, but we gotta be honest with ourselves here. The average Joe taking his wife and his kids, who are all probably under the age of 12, to see these movies isn't thinking, man, I cannot wait to see Charles Martinet as Mario here. No, just no. The reality is, the kids are excited to hear the chicken jockey guy as Bowser again.
Chicken jockey!
It's a bummer in a lot of ways, for sure, but that is just how the business works, and I've accepted that fact. The Galaxy movie has already confirmed the return of Chris Pratt, Charlie Day, Anya Taylor-Joy, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, and Kevin Michael Richardson to all reprise their roles again. Both Seth Rogen and Fred Armisen noticeably absent to return as Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong, which, while may be unfortunate for some, makes sense given the focus of this movie. Neither of those characters were involved in the first two Galaxy games in any capacity, while the other 6 both played major and minor roles. And since Rosalina is such a central figure for these games, it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense from a business perspective to use any of her video game voice actresses in the marketing, because those 3, at least from what I've seen, are even less known than Charles Martinet is. One could argue that because all the other big names are reprising their roles, on top of this being a sequel where most people would have seen the first movie, they don't need to go all in on giving Rosa a big celebrity, but I'd actually argue the opposite, because some people still severely underestimate the corporate greed behind these companies. With Seth Rogen out of the picture, and again, Rosalina likely playing a major role in this movie, the most logical step would be to get someone like ScarJo or on that same level. I can see it now. Pre-order your tickets to the Super Mario Galaxy movie where you can hear the iconic voice of Taylor Swift as Rosalina. What's crazy is that casting isn't even out of the question, since she voiced that one girl in the Lorax movie. Who produced that film again? Oh yeah, look at that. She would be my last choice for Rosalina, but I'm not gonna pretend like Universal using her on the marketing wouldn't sell tens of millions of tickets more than if it was Laura Faye Smith voicing her. Again, while I understand wanting to respect the source material, I also think completely writing off another celebrity as a bad performance before we even hear how they'll sound is a bit unfair as well. Jack Black's performance as Bowser was widely praised after the film release, so who's to say the same can't happen with Rosalina if an A-lister is voicing her? There's a lot of inconsistencies with the arguments because once it's revealed the new voice is a celebrity they like, all the grandstanding about honoring the original voice actors goes out the window. Even before a potential appearance has been made, Danny DeVito has become the biggest fan casting I've seen for Wario. The levels of annoyance varies depending on the character though, and it's not all black and white. Like Chris Pratt and Charles' situation is the most understandable to be mad about since literally Charles was the only one voicing him for over 2 decades, but Rosalina had overlapping voices during the Wii U era into the early Switch era. Carrie Kane first voiced her in Mario Kart 7 while Laura came in for Super Mario 3D World. Yet Carrie was brought back again for Smash 4, Smash Ultimate, and Mario Golf World Tour for some reason, while Laura's voiced every other Rosalina appearance since then into present day. I know change like this is never really a fun pill to swallow when these characters and the way they sound played such big parts in a lot of people's childhoods, but when you take into account these movies are such big budget projects that take place in their own unique universes outside of the main game series, I don't think them wanting to cast a bigger celebrity for Rosalina is a total deal breaker to see this movie. Me personally, I think it's cool when the celebrities have enough fun with the role that they can express a newfound love for the character outside of standard marketing. Jack Black wearing a custom blazer with Bowser spikes on the back to the first movie's premiere was hilarious. I'd like to think he developed a genuine newfound appreciation for the Mario series thanks to his time voicing Bowser, instead of treating it like another paycheck and nothing more. Regardless of whatever happens with her voice, I'm hoping this next movie can be better than the last. The first movie was good, but definitely could have had some kinks worked out with the pacing in particular. With Galaxy being the main focus here and the removal of the Kongs, I hope it can be a necessary evil situation where cutting those two does more good for the film than bad. A lot of people are still pissing and shitting that no 3D Mario was announced for early 2026, so this movie popping off is the most those guys can ask for, I suppose. Let me know in the comments below what you guys are hoping for the Galaxy movie. I'd love to know your thoughts. If my hunch about her casting being a well-known celebrity ends up being wrong, feel free to make fun of me. Alright, time to get back to getting my ass kicked in Silk Song. I'll see you guys later.